Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for you guys' words, prayers, and just everything in general you guys express and send my way. As to those that, for understandable reasons, I know you watch, but you can't support, right? But anyways, before I get into the video, I always forget to, but do like, share, and subscribe. But most of all, I'm on here for a message, so I would have really appreciate it if you would share, to spread it, to help it get out as much possible at least. Gracias. Now to get into the story on him. Today I'm gonna talk about a Billy that's not heard of, at least when I was there, right? The time I was in the system. You heard his name come up here and there, but he was really in the shadows a lot. For whatever reason, he had his reasons, which was Payaso from Colton. Me personally, when I had a conversation with them, he never got out that calzone in the sense of him being a Billy, right? It was more a camarada trip, right? But this ain't, a typical story. Excuse me, I do understand that when you're putting out a message, but you gotta be straight across the board, right? Let's just talk about the good, bad, and ugly. I just hope everybody is aware. My time lapses, so I try to give Klecha at least to awareness of when things start going south. Not for you to go south, but to be aware of things. That's why I speak. I did almost 24 years, so I could really touch on a bunch of ducktail, but I don't, you know, again, that's not what I'm on here. Riots, pegadas, all that I've had a lot of people tell me to touch on that YouTube would, I disculpen, but I thank God for everyone that tunes in and that's with me, right? Because that's who's meant to hear my message, and that's who God guided to help me spread it. But anyways, I disculpen. Again, the time I talked to Payaso, he was more on a camarada trip. I had already heard his name, but he never addressed himself, right? He was coming down from Pelican Bay, and it was a layover into Ashby. And I'll be sincere, I had a different expectation of him because of who he was working hand in hand with, right? Which was uh, which was Sturdo from his town, and he was close to Popeye, and just feelings, that at least those that were sitting in the shoes were to get peaceful with them, right? Because they were quick to pull that trigger on a camarada, right? But nevertheless, again, this is a little different, right? That I myself was surprised of it. And this was maybe 2010 or so. He had his homeboy Crook and another homie, I disculpen his name, Traviesos. Sorry about that. But they were both from Colton. And I do understand down south it's game banging, right? I'm pretty sure if up north it was nothing but we were all norteños or sureños, we would still be at each other's neck the same way, right? Because it's game banging. You know, you throw your rag or whatever, but at the end of the day, you represent your neighborhood, right? And I'm speaking streetwise. But anyways, it was the time where they were pressing the issue a lot more when it came to drive-bys, right? They weren't allowing other Billys to clear barrios. If a Billy green lighted a neighborhood, that's who you had to pay off to take it off your neighborhood, right? And it came with guidelines. For example, I'm not gonna address this camaradas, but let's say Fulanito and Sutanito, they went out there, did a drive-by, and you were through if you hit a kid or an innocent bystander. At least around this time, right? It was really there was no buts or ifs, right? But if not, even if you hit the target and they found out it was a drive-by, you're still they'll put you on the green light and to take it off your neighborhood. Your homies had to take you out, right, and present evidence, and of course, pay a sum to the Billy that did it. Which, and more so, it's always the one that has more jugo in the town, right? Which is being sincere, the one you heard the most of was Turtle, right? And Colton at this time again. For certain things that recently happened, I want to stay clear of them, right? Not because I own anything, believe me. But again, I'm not for, you know, helping that other side at all either, right? And I disculpen, but anyways, the homie Crook and Travieso, they went out. It wasn't really a drive, but well, is they were out on a party one time and something went wrong, as usually it does. Different neighborhood at a party, whatever, it's gonna end bad, regardless, right? Because if it's not over a girl, someone got tipsy or is high, and words are exchanged, and of course, disrespects means no suit up, boot up, and boogie. Vámonos, darle. So, anyways, things happen. The vatos were leaving, I guess, and they got followed by the neighborhood, right? And to get away, well, at least that's what came down the pipeline, right? Because, oh, you guys will get how I heard of it or came across it, right? So, anyways, to get a Greek guideline, right? I don't know if it's true they were getting shot at. That's not my business, right? But nevertheless, take off. They shot from the car. And one of them, he was in touch with Turtle. So of course, it's that new era, right? Of game banging, which is snitching, right? Because however you want to sugarcoat it, you're gonna go straight to a Billy and complain. We were game banging, hoop banging on a different neighborhood, and they got away. We couldn't get them, so I won't go ahead and snitch to a Billy to reach out to them because I couldn't do it. I couldn't buck up and handle my business, right? That's what it comes down to, disculping, right? But I even do it to my homeboy, right? When I was there with them, whenever they used to tell me something, I used to tell them, don't tell me nothing. What do you want me to do to get out of the bay and go out there and handle it? When it happens, handle it. If not, callado mejor, right? There's no reason. You start complaining to Billy's, it comes with the repercussion, right? I know a lot of youngsters think it's the thing to do, but it's not. These individuals, they like to get high, they like feria, they don't like to hear headaches and deal with them. Regardless, they're the gatos, right? They're gonna make ferias from every angle. Even if they greenlight a neighborhood or whatever. That even brings them to actually getting in a neighborhood, right? Pushing their power in the neighborhood and them having to obey to what Billy says is basically an invitation for them to be there, right? Nevertheless, a lot of things were said and they started having words, right? Again, Payaso was a mellow one, right? And basically, Billy's call is usually is set on concrete, right? And another Billy tries to stay away from going against that palabra, right? Because it could be looked as politicking, if you want to call it that, right? Amongst them, and they do it all the time, but they try to do it in sneaky ways, not in open, out in the open like that, right? Anyways, Payaso defended his homeboys, but again, he was more on the DL. He was more working for other Billies and just following suit. And difference from Turtle, he was doing his thing as a carnal, right? he didn't really answer to no other Billies. He respected them, whatever, but he didn't work hand in hand, like that, like Payaso did. He was again, he was more like on a camarada trip, right? But you seen that it flared out when it became of his homeboys. He really shielded his homeboys, right? For whatever reason, if it was just his homeboys, if he knew him personally, if it was family, I couldn't tell you. I'd be lying to everyone and not on you for that. But anyways, after a while, basically again, Turtle's call was on concrete. He wasn't just gonna clip the neighborhood for Feria. He wanted the homies' heads. Once they got caught in county, he wanted them dealt with, right? And there was other people writing to Terco. Again, I was Terco's, if you want to call it cha-cha, right? But anyways, I received and I had the blessings to read, and whatever was important for him to see was to be forward, right? If not, he wanted to be left alone. It's just the way they are, right? If it's important for him to see, then sit through. If not, you answer to your knowledge of things, doing things the right way, accordingly to him, how you know him, and don't bother him, basically. So, a lot of things started happening on how things flared out to that point, right? And there was a lot of homies, right, from that party defending these two camaradas and saying that they try to get away from the pedo, right? That it happened inside, and I guess there was more vatos, the ones whining to Turtle than the two camaradas, right? And the two camaradas told him like, "Hey, vamos pa afuera and let's suit up, and knuckle up." And the vatos didn't want to do it, but when they were trying to go to their car and get away, they followed him, and yeah, getting into names or not, they pulled out and they were dumping at the car. So they basically did it for a reason, right? And it was away in the parking lots. It wasn't like they ran up on a crowd and let off, right? Which that's the angle that should be green lighted, or most of the time is green lighted. Well, I'm lying to you. Nowadays is you could look up. Sorry, gonna be dumb, but I was gonna say you could drive through a neighborhood, look out the window, and spit, and they'll green light your neighborhood. It's just that bad now, right? I disculpen, I'm just being dumb. But anyways, after a while, Payaso reached out to Terco. They had business happening amongst them. Well, at least money wise, Terco was winning something there that he was willing to hear, Payaso, basically there was more pilis, like Raul, like I mentioned, there was different pilis that eventually said there was just too much for the request of the camaradas being taken out. Of course, the neighborhood they were from, they still, you can't get away from Atacato once they think they got a teeth into making some free feria, right? So the homies couldn't get away from that, but I guess it wasn't much, right? For a strong neighborhood like Colton, they have a lot of vatos out there doing their thing. But again, this is just a little different, on this individual. As a matter of fact, it's the only time that I heard him out in in a chaos like this, right? The whole time I was in Pelican Bay, and again, it just came through because of the reach of Deco. He had soldados from out there too that, they were backing up these two camaradas that happened to be from Payaso's hood, and they were in touch with him. And it happens like that though, Could be one city, two different neighborhoods. Both neighborhoods are in touch with different Baileys, right? And it's what brings chaos, headaches, bumping heads, and repercussions. Remember that, youngsters. When you bring it to this individuals understanding there ain't too many people like in this situation like Payaso. At least these vatos, they're not gonna shield you. They're gonna look at a angle for them to make some dope, some feria, use and punk you. And do excuse me, I refer to it like that, but believe me, that's exactly what it is. And I don't say it in any negative way. Let me say it like this, right? The whole time I was down, I was a punk, right? To the sense that I knew how things were. I seen things and I allowed it to happen. And I didn't have the backbone to come out and speak, right? Even though it was supposed to be in rules and regulations that a sureño, a campolero, has the right to question and ask and get told even by a Billy. And there shouldn't be no repercussion. That's why we ask for papiros, right? Appeals to every decision like that. But since they don't have no repercussion, regardless if they're right or wrong, things change. And the reason I say it, not to minimize myself, believe me, I always thought I did everything the way I was supposed to, and I always got, you know, a buen jale type of thing from Pilis. But I still got the bad end of the stick. Up until today, I want everybody to do understand why I'm on here for my message. To see there ain't nothing there. You can serve a lifetime. You're still gonna get done. Be wiser than I was. I mean, look, there's no reason to speak. But do excuse me on the second part I said on Chico. I gotta reorganize it. My niece had problems uploading it because of YouTube. I don't want to get flagged, one more flag, and they're gonna take my channel down. So I gotta be careful, right? And I guess it's the pictures I try to put, ducats with what I was speaking about. Because there's been a lot of that, buffiando behind the keyboard, right? On people that everything I speak is out there. I will not speak on something that's not. Just do know that. But anyways, mi gente, I've been terrible. And before I go, everyone, I want to say how God is so amazing, right? I've been struggling. I've been bad these last few days. That's why I've been like this. I mean, bad. Where I can't do nothing to the point that I'm out, right? And thank God my niece is here. But today, doctors from Guadalajara called, and this week they want me back there to do that testing and see if we move forward with the surgery or what. So everyone tell me I don't deserve it, but ain't God amazing? Again, I tell everything for everyone to be wise, not to go out sideways, right? Love your homies though. Even love the causa. But at the end of the day, look at me. I can't go anywhere even if I'm down there. Not because I did anything wrong. I did everything to the dot that I was supposed to. But at the end of the day, I got done. Now just to go see a doctor in a different state, man, if you guys would know that. That's why, I can't put the date on here, but I will keep everybody informed and hope everybody rests well. I send my love. Please stay true to yourself, loyal to loved ones. God bless. Buenas noches.